What does it mean to love unconditionally? Welcome to the Summit Study Hall. I'm Dre, and that's our question of the day for this installment. Everyone experiences love in some way, shape, or form, and loves others along their journey's paths. Our answers today are all shaped by Bible verses, which tell us how to show that love in the best ways possible. So let's get right into it with our very first couple of verses, but they're one right next to each other, so they flow. From 1 Corinthians 13, 4 and 5. Love is patient and kind. Love is not jealous or boastful or proud or rude. It does not demand its own way. It is not irritable, and it keeps no record of being wronged. So what would be our first answer? It'd be to love with patience. Love and patience go hand in hand. When we open up our hearts and bestow upon others our unconditional love, we naturally develop the patience needed for nurturing those relationships. When conflict arises or communication breaks down, we can know and feel that patience is working and uniting us to one another. Verse number 2. It's a couple of verses later. 1 Corinthians 13, 7. Love never gives up, never loses faith, is always hopeful, and endures through every circumstance. So our second answer, to love without exception. A lot of people only show compassion toward others when there's something to be gotten back. Only when there's a promise of a return on investment do certain hearts open themselves up to any kind of love whatsoever. But true, unconditional love loves without expectation or exception. It also takes on the tough times, when there seems like little hope of a relationship surviving. It shows the world that the love which exists there is not rattled by differences of opinion or separate viewpoints. Our third verse, 1 John 4:18. Such love has no fear, because perfect love expels all fear. So our answer, to love without fear. Loving without fear is the type of love which doesn't take into account what others may say or believe. When we truly love one another, we don't care what it may come off as to outsiders. We will only care about the compassion which we show the loved ones, friends, and family. We won't let it be hindered by separatist thinking or division of any kind. We know that no matter what anyone says, our hearts will be filled to the brim with the others' names. The next couple of verses form our fourth answer. The first is 1 Peter 4:8. Most important of all, continue to show deep love for each other, for love covers a multitude of sins. Our second verse, Ephesians 4:2. Always be humble and gentle. Be patient with each other, making allowance for each other's faults because of your love. So our answer, to love with mercy. We all make mistakes and sometimes take others' love for us for granted. Selfishness is a human trait which, while we all try to erase from our lives, still shows up from time to time. The key is to look past the offense and continue onward with the relationship no matter the circumstance. This relates to our first point of having patience. When we can exercise such compassion, we let our love cover others' sins, which is one of the deepest types of love we can have for each other. Verse number 5, Romans 12:9. Don't just pretend to love others, really love them. So our answer is to love authentically. There is no room for fake emotions when talking about unconditional love. When we feel mercy and kindness and patience for one another, we need to know that it's authentic. We can't fake love. We don't need to either. When the soil is ready, the seeds will spring forth and it'll grow organically. That's when we know there's something special. That's when we should hold on to that person and honor them with all that we have, because we may never be blessed with another relationship quite like theirs again. And finally, our last verse comes from 2 John 1:6. Love means doing what God has commanded us, and He has commanded us to love one another, just as you heard from the beginning. So our answer is to love by following God's will. Like we pointed out in the last answer, true unconditional love doesn't need to be forced. And when we follow God's teachings and live out His will, real love will naturally develop in our lives from those people placed within them. There will never be a season where we don't have what we need when we live in God. If we need more friends, we'll be provided for. If we need more love, we'll have it. But we must stay in God's perfect love as well, letting it flow through and out of us and into those who we've been blessed to call our friends and family. So let's do a quick recap. What does it mean to love unconditionally? It means to love with patience, to love without exception, to love without fear, to love with mercy, to love authentically, and to love by following God's will. You know, I truly enjoyed this talk today because I can relate to a lot of these points. I've made the mistake of taking certain friendships for granted before, and now realize what they truly meant to me. I try to use my love in much better ways these days, and harness all of the positive energy that I spoke about tonight in my own life. So speaking from experience, true unconditional love is extremely powerful. It can forgive, forget, and heal any and all wounds. Thank you for listening today, and my prayers, like always, are for God to bless us all. Indeed. Until tomorrow, take care.